Hello everyone, welcome to the Azure Back to School online conference and welcome to our session DevOps in the Windows Ops Eyes. My colleague Milos and I will present this session for you today, which will be a demo heavy session. As I said, my name is Vladimir Stefanovic. I work and live in Amsterdam in Netherlands, originally from Serbia. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and regional lead. Currently work for the Schubert Phillies as a cloud solution architect and mission critical engineer. My Twitter handle is in the bottom of this page, and if you have any kind of question and think I can give you any kind of valuable answer, feel free to reach me.
And my name is Milos Katinski, also as Vladimir. I'm living in Amsterdam, Netherlands. I am currently working as a cloud solutions architect at KPN. I'm working closely with Vladimir on holding the Azure Serbia user group still, and also one of the first conferences in that region, Azure Saturday. If you, after this demo and our presentation, do have any questions, feel free to reach to us. You can also see my Twitter handle at the bottom.
So let's start with this presentation, and I need to a little bit explain why I added Windows Ops in the name of this and in the general topic of this presentation, and that is not any kind of discrimination between Linux and Windows population. I'm from the Windows world, moved to the newer technologies, to the cloud, to the DevOps. My colleague Milos as well. So we had the same process of transformation, and that is mostly because Linux population was forced from the day one to typing the command lines, to creating scripts, creating templates, automation for so many different processes, for so many different tools and applications and whatever. So there is a big difference between those sources, let's say. Windows and Linux had different starting points in their careers if they wanted to do something on a professional level. So how that started? A long time ago, definitely, when this population was completely reliable on their favorite tool, mouse. Clicking through the graphic user experience, today in the Azure portal, and so many different GUI tools. And yes, that is happening today, we can say, but if we want to do that on a higher level, a lot of things are not possible to do. But we cannot rid of completely graphic user experience tools and applications. Yeah, that is here. And I can confirm from my side, I was scared maybe 10 years ago to touch anything related to typing any command lines and typing any kind of commands in command prompt, in PowerShell later, because I was, okay, I'm not a developer, I don't like to write any code, I don't like coding, but today, maybe 10, 12 years later, yeah, I'm completely addicted to writing some automation stuff, and that is way of our doing. So after some times, operation people started to use command line tools for some simple commands to configuring names, IP addresses, resetting some stuff. I can remember from my starting point, I was used for the flushing DNS on DNS servers on the client side as well, maybe setting some IP addresses and so on, but that was not day-to-day operation. That was, you know how to do that, I will present maybe in some courses, and that was the majority of inputs on training side delivered over the time, where people are scared to touch anything related to PowerShell, for instance, or command lines, any kind of command lines tools. While on the other side, on the Linux courses, that was a mandatory thing, especially on the server side. So yes, after some time, people realized, yeah, we need to start to do something with our job. We cannot do a lot of things using portals, using graphic tools. That is not the way of doing. How that started to be incorporated more than was in that time, there were not enough people in specific industries for serious jobs, for mission critical staffs. And if you needed to manage hundreds or thousands servers, you need to do something with automation. You need to write maybe one simple script for setting baselines on all of those servers, or getting some reports, or whatever. Even though a lot of those things were possible to do using different kind of graphic interface tools, which will do some automation behind the scene, yeah, it was much better for us to have something designed and created by us for our specific situation. That was really, really different from industry to industry. But yes, that was some kind of baseline, and that was how I started to write some partial scripts, because I had hundreds of servers for dozens of clients with more or less same baseline. All of them were from the web industry, and that was mission critical, highly scalable, and yes, more or less the same thing. Microsoft footprint, maybe SQL servers behind, ISRs in front, two-layer, third-layer application, so on. But yeah, we had more or less the baseline with a kind of small deviation between clients and their application deployed in private or public cloud, and we had to do some kind of automation, which was really helpful later. And then someone decided to deeply introduce partial public cloud like Azure, AWS, GCP later. DevOps methodologies, philosophy, technologies, regardless of that was Jenkins, Azure DevOps, GitLab, or whatever. And so many different technologies, tools, approaches, philosophies. And I realized, I think it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, when majority of Windows operation people, engineers, administrators were completely scared of all of those things and started thinking, oh, what will happen with our job? Does Windows sysadmin, or in general sysadmin, will die? How we will continue with our work? And simple answer was no. Those kind of position will not die, definitely will be renamed, but will remain in industry because someone need to do that. But what we expect from you? We expect from you to improve your skills, to move from one standpoint, to go out from your comfort zone, learn something new, start doing things. And if you write one script on a weekly basis to do some automation, for instance, for the start, simple script, yeah, that will be good. You can make some progress. You will go out from your comfort zone, then it will be much easier later. And we're definitely witnessing that's happening today. If we take a look 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was completely different situation than we have today. And believe it or not, we still have people which are deploying resources in Microsoft Azure through the portal, and that is their tool. They know how to use only that tool. But number of those kind of people are decreasing on monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, which is good sign. but we still have them. What is the root cause? Definitely cannot give you any answer on that one. I can take a look from my perspective and say, yeah, most of them are still not forced and to do things in that way because enterprises are going really slow in that direction, but that will happen. And in the end of the story, as I said, that was question: what will happen with our job? Does sysadmin will die? Do we are developers now? What is the right job now? And mostly that is because the name of DevOps is concatenation of dev and devs, developers and operations. And so many people start thinking, okay, do I need to be developer now? They need to start coding for applications, design. Yes and no. No. You will not be involved on the application side, from the application design side, coding, writing code, backend, frontend, whatever. You will not be responsible, maybe yes, maybe no, but mostly no, for database designs. But you need to deploy that infrastructure. You need to have consistent infrastructure between environments. If we are developing some software as a service as a partner, maybe we want to have the exact same, so no maybe, we need to have the exact same product for all of our clients, with maybe some deviation from case to case. But yes, we need to have automated things. We don't need to think about, what will happen if someone click on wrong network interface card or virtual network, uses different storage account. No, we need to have really strict rules and the same output. And there are a lot of tools help us this journey. So, since this presentation will be demo heavy presentation and we don't have too many slides, we still need to touch some really painful topic, and what we need to do, what Windows operation people need to do, what they need to know today if they want to be in the right track with all technologies and so on. So, as I said, there's still a lot of old school minds people, and believe it or not, I've worked with them in last 2 years in 50-60% of projects I have, and I cannot say you that is the bad thing, because they were really interesting in learning how they can improve their skills. And that is a big difference than 5-6 years ago, when most of people were not interested to improving their skills. But today that is happening, even though they are all minds and they want to learn. But some of them will definitely remain in the mouse era and click through the portal, do things in a, from my point of view, wrong way. But majority of people will move forward, and I'm pretty sure that will happen very soon. We will read off a lot of Azure portal work in this case, and they're ready to learn new methodologies, techniques, tools, stay focused on automation, learn how to do some things more easily, create everything in a repetitive way. A lot of those things. But what we need to know, there are a lot of things, and there is no exact right way where you will start with. In this, from this point of view, automation. For instance, if you know how to work with Terraform, and you're not familiar, or ARM templates are not your cup of tea, and you're more flexible with Terraform, know all details, whatever, why not? You can go forward with Terraform. But you need to know how those kind of things work. What are the pros and cons of Terraform, pros and cons of ARM template, Bicep, and so on. What are the differences between PowerShell and CLI? Because sometimes you cannot do all of those things in complex pipelines with one technology. For instance, you want to deploy a new feature, new service created in Azure, and feature has released 1 week ago. We need to have automation today. Is that possible to do with Terraform? Maybe yes, maybe no. Why? Since Terraform relies completely on ARM in a backend, ARM will have that feature from the day one. But on the Terraform side, someone need to create everything what is needed, deploying a new version from the provider perspective, so we can use those kind of services which are new. If we want to use ARM templates or Bicep, the most probably you are able to use that from day one. PowerShell, CLI, yes, maybe no. The most probably yes, because those tools are Microsoft tools. But still, there is no guarantee that any tools other than ARM templates will be able to do that from the day 0 or day 1 of new service. The same thing with Ansible, with so many different automation tools. If you want to use Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions, Jenkins, whatever for deploying resources, I think that we will be safe in most cases, and we will show today you how you can use Azure DevOps with ARM templates to deploy infrastructures of core in a very simple way, because we don't have enough time to go through the all processes, create some complex stuff to implement. But yes, if you can deploy basic stuff, the most probably you're able to do some more complicated stuff. So let's move to the demo time, and we will see how ops in DevOps works, what process looks like, and let's say from 0 to hero. We will start with nothing, and in dozens of minutes we will have some infrastructure deployed in Azure. So let's start with this demo, and definitely we will start from the scratch. We will not deploy any kind of complex infrastructure. We would like to show you what the process is, how we can do that. And the first thing in our demo will be to create one simple ARM template for deploying virtual network with subnet, which will be used later in Azure DevOps for deploying those stuff in the Azure side. So the first thing is to create. I have created 2 empty files with the correct names, of course, which we will use. So we will use ARM templates, not Bicep, not PowerShell, not Terraform. Even though I think that some other tools like Bicep and Terraform are more human readable, mostly for complex environments. In this simple scenario, we will see how those kind of things works, and of course we will work in Visual Studio Code with all needed extensions for the ARM templates, for the PowerShell, for everything what is needed. But in this case we need only ARM template extension. So there are a lot of snippets that we can use, and those kind of things are incredibly helpful, definitely. So if you type ARM and exclamation mark, put enter, we will start with empty schema. Great thing. If you want to put some parameters, we will have new recommendation. IntelliSense works. We can yes, we need new parameter. What parameter will be? So let's start with vnet name. That parameter definitely will be string. So next parameter, we don't need to use that one if we know how to use those kind of things, will be subnet name. And you can see there are a lot of IntelliSense. So what is the type? Again, string. So as you can see, we don't need to type all of those things. Then we will put vnet address space, which will be string. Again, we will use subnet address range. Again, type string, and we will use location as parameter. Again, that will be string, but in this case we will add default value. So default value will be, but in this case IntelliSense didn't recognize what we really need to do, will be resource group location. In case I don't put anything in our parameter file under location, default value resource group location will be used. Can we do that in a different way? Can we hard-coded resource group location in every single resource instead of parameter location? Yes, that will work. But if you try to use ARM TTK for testing or any kind of linting tools for checking does your ARM template and parameter files are created in the correct way, you will get error that you don't need to hard code any values in resources. If you need to hard code some values like this one, you can use that through the parameters. So I think for now that is everything what we need, but let's create any resource. So if we just put vnet no rm okay, right now we don't have good collaboration with IntelliSense, but let's try on this way. Yes, a little bit slower, I have an idea why, but it's here, arm-vnet, and if we use that snippet we will get info what we need to put in resource of the virtual network. So we will change default values definitely, and then name will be parameters virtual network name. Location, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier. We can do that on this way, but recommendation is use parameters and then location. What tag will be? In this case we will say that will be deployment method, which will be Azure DevOps pipeline. Okay, right now we need to put parameters virtual address space, vnet address space. Yes, right now we need to configure one of our subnets, and again parameters subnet name, and for the address range again we don't need additional subnet. We will deploy just that one. We will save that file. So if we take a look on the Visual Studio Code and this ARM template, what is the issue? VNet name is not provided. Okay, and column 1 is not provided. So I think those kind of things works, but we will check. We need to deploy the values. Okay, right now, since that file has been created, we will delete parameter file. I will show why. Yes, and we will back to this one. Parameter file not found. So there is no option to do full validation. If we click here, okay, no issue, but we will click on change and say new file for all parameters which are needed. And yes, default name will be parameter ARM template file name dot parameters dot JSON, and we will get all of those files values right now here. So we need to say VNet name will be my demo VNet. Okay. Then subnet name will be my default subnet. Default subnet, okay. All those things will be deleted, of course. Boom. VNet address space 10 133 slash Vladimir. Subnet 10 123 10 slash 24, and the value. Right now I can say West Europe, and in this case that will be the default value will be overridden. Sometimes we need more time for those kind of things to be checked, but if we just simply close and open it again, it should be okay. There is a, so we can see there is no errors, there is nothing. All should be done very quickly, very easily by Azure DevOps now. But at this point, we have templates which will be used for our deployment. Let's move on the Azure DevOps side, and Milos will show us how we can configure a simple pipeline for deploying those stuff and what is needed to do as a prerequisite.
Hello everyone. Now when Vladimir has successfully prepared our code locally, it is time to do the integration with the Azure DevOps and to continuously deploy the code when we need it and how we want it. So first, a couple of basic stuff. We have landed in the Azure DevOps. We have pre-created the organization that we will use for our future deployments. And what is important is that we connect our organization with our Azure environment. And once we have done that, it is also important to create service connections that will be used to deploy our resources in Azure. There are multiple ways to do that. You can pre-create service connections and assign specific RBAC requirements in your subscription or on top of your management groups or even resource groups, and then to add them in Azure DevOps. Or you can do that if your account has enough privileges, you can do it directly from the Azure DevOps project. You can initiate that by creating a new service connection and by choosing Azure Resource Manager type of the connection. And once you click next, so the proposed way for this is to go with the service principal and automatic creation, where Azure DevOps will help you in the backend and create everything that is needed. And then you will choose the scope on top of which your service connection will receive ownership rights to be able to deploy your code. As you can see, we can choose our subscription. If needed, we can scope it down to the specific resource group. And since our account has enough privileges on the subscription, it will be able to read out the resource group that are currently created in the subscription, and we could scope down the rights for the deployment. For the demo purposes, we have already pre-created the service connection. We have assigned specific RBAC role to be able to deploy our code. Now, once we have this ready, we can go to the repository of our project, and the local code that Vladimir previously showed to you is uploaded in our repository. And as you can see, here are the template that Vladimir previously created for the deploying of the VNet and the subnet, and also the parameter file which will be used for this demo. And once we have our code, it is time to create a pipeline that will deploy the code the way we want. And just to double check, going back to the Microsoft Azure portal, the resource group that we will be targeting is empty. Nothing is there at the moment. So if we go to the pipelines, as you can see, we currently have no pipelines in our project. We can choose to create a new pipeline. We are doing that based on the YAML codes from within our repository, and we have also, in the sake of time, we have pre-created certain YAML through which I will guide you and show you what was done and why. So once we create that, it will recognize that we have a Azure Pipelines YAML file, and it will automatically populate the code that we have previously created. I will save this, and then we will go to the pipeline just to show you what it does and how. So our pipeline consists of two stages. The idea is to deploy VNet and subnet in our acceptance environment, and also to do the same for our production environment. And this is the actual benefit of having the infrastructure as a code in our repository, because we can reuse the same templates, and with just passing a different set of parameters, we can deploy same environment, but yes, with different values in the backend. But this allows us to have to be more confident in what and how we are deploying. So to take a look at our deploying of our acceptance environment. So we are using the service connection that we have pre-created to deploy this. We are defining the resource group where it will be deployed. We are passing in the location for the region that we would like to use, and also we are pointing to our template and parameter file. So how did they end up? Because this code will be run on the Azure DevOps hosted agent. There is a step which will do the checkout of the repository. That means that it will pull the complete repository on the agent itself. And as you can find in documentation, that data will land in the default, something called default working directory on the agent, from where we can then go down into the templates and target our files. So if we once again look at the repository, see the root will be in system default working directory, and from there all our subfolders we can call, so /templates and then the files within. Same goes for the parameter file. And with this we will be able to deploy our acceptance environment, which we will see in a couple of minutes. But then we are coming to the potential production deployment, and there we would like to make things a little bit more complicated, which means that we would like to have an approval to be able to deploy code to our production environment. That means that, for example, we have initiated this pipeline, acceptance is deployed, someone is checking if the deployment is successful, everything is working as expected, and only then your colleague or manager would approve the deployment of the production. How do we achieve that today within the Azure DevOps YAML pipelines? Is by utilizing something called environments. And to go now to that part of the pipelines, if we go to the pipelines and environments, here we can create so-called environments, and just to guide you through the process. So when we would like to create a new environment, there are options to target virtual machines, Kubernetes clusters, which means that we can, if we choose, for example, virtual machine, we can specify a VM within the Azure that is being used for that specific environment, for example, dev, test, acceptance, or production. And if we name that environment in our deployment job in YAML, that specific VM will be targeted for deploying our code if we are pushing some application or similar. But in our case, we would like to utilize environments in order to introduce approvals. And if we choose none, we need to type environment name, and this environment name will be used in the YAML pipeline to call it. And just a second. That okay. Once we say okay, on top of that environment, we can set up approvals and checks. And you can see there are many types of approvals or checks that could be set, like from which branch certain code is being run, to require a specific template, etc. But in our case, we would like to use approvals. And if we choose next, here is where we can specify a user or a group of people that will have to approve this specific stage. In our case of our project, we do not have that many users, so I will choose Vladimir's account as the approval, and once we hit the create, it will require for this environment Vladimir to approve every future step. So I have already pre-created, and we have that one used in our pipeline. So if we go back to the YAML pipeline, you will see that as the first thing in our stage, we have configured a deployment that is using environment, name of our environment where we have set up the checks, display name just to be able to recognize it later on once the pipeline is run. And after that, we are using almost exactly the same code for the deploying of the acceptance, but we will do one parameter override for the VNet name where we will specify a production VNet name. And that is a complete change. So now once we run this pipeline from our master branch, you can see that we have two stages as we have defined them in the code. Acceptance is triggered. Deployment of the VNet is in process with subnet. And once this is completed, we will verify that the VNet is deployed in the portal as we would like. And now we can go here. We can see that we have my demo VNet, which is the name in our acceptance parameter. If we go into the VNet, it has predefined subnet, so everything looks okay. We can go back to our resource group. Also, if we take a look at the deployments, we will be able to see that we have just run deployment. We could also see the template that we have passed for this deployment, check the parameters that we had. So this is the exact same thing that we have now in our repository. Going back to the resource group. So for now, we have only one VNet. If we go back to our pipeline, very soon we should see that the production deployment is initiated. The job is pending, probably for the available agent. One of the things having a free project in Azure DevOps is that sometimes you have to wait a bit longer for the agent to be available. So as you can see now, deployment of our production stage has the approval process as the first task. And here is the moment where we can do review, and we will be able to reject the release of this stage, or of course to approve it. So depending on the status of our acceptance, and if we are satisfied with the outcome, everything is okay, we are ready to go with the production, we can leave a comment for our development team, we can approve it, and now similar to the acceptance, it will take approximately half a minute to deploy our production VNet, and then we will double check how it looks like in the portal. So, approval is done. Task for deploying the VNet is queued. All looks good. We can check if we already see in the deployments on top of the resource group that the new one is initiated. Not yet. There it is. deploying in process. Well, faster than I actually clicked to see what happened. So production VNet is done. As you can see, same on the Azure DevOps side. Going back to the resource group. And here we should be able to see very soon. There it is, our production resource. Of course, for the sake of the demo, we have deployed everything in the same resource group, but that is actually something that you can also easily control. And of course, having your acceptance and production separated for the sake of the security, lifecycle management, etc. And with that, I would close the demo for the Azure DevOps. And as Vladimir said, this is just one simple project that we have deployed, demo, but based on this, you can easily make things more complicated, make it more secure, and use it to deploy your complete infrastructure and to have each change under control. So if you are, for example, deploying also user-defined routes, NSGs to be used with this VNet, later on VMs, etc. So each change can be deployed through the code, should be run through the code with the branches on top of this repository. And once your colleagues double check what you have pushed, once they merge that into the master or main branch, the releases could be triggered and you have updated your code, your infrastructure on Azure side. Once again, thank you for attending our presentation and a demo. Hope you liked it, and till the next time. Bye.